Hey everybody, this is Perch, and a couple days ago, a video came out. I think a couple days ago. It was recorded a while ago, though. But anyway, this is this weird time gap. This is post Perch with his shitty new voice. Anyway, I did this video saying, "Can DC recover? Can DC recover?" And the idea is that first off, it's based on one premise. The writer, the person who wrote in, was basically asking like, "I hate DC now. Can DC get better?" Now, you may like DC now, and if that's fine, then the whole question of can DC recover probably doesn't make a lot of sense to you. But if you are irritated with DC or Marvel or whatever, can it recover? And my basic point to the video is yes, super easy. Very, very easy. It could recover. Barely an inconvenience, as he said. Somebody was very clever in the comments, like, so you have a new pitch for me? Yes, sir, I do. Anyway. But my premise was it can recover very easily because we've seen it before and not that long ago. I am very fascinated by this. A lot of the people, and so lots of people, by the way, came in to argue with me, and they argued with me for pardon the expression, because as you argue with me, I can also argue with you. That's the way this works. We're all friends, and we'll all share beer at the end, but we're going to argue with each other. They argued with me for a dumb reason. The reason they argued with me was like, yeah, but you'd have to change the leadership. Well, I mean, no shit, you'd have to change leadership. That's kind of implied. When I said that, yes, definitely things can recover, my example was Rebirth. When DC did Rebirth, everybody was happy. There were lots of happy comments. Here is the thing you memory hold. A lot of you people who were arguing and saying, no, the SJW infestation means that it will never get good again, ever, 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 ever. Have you forgotten DCU? You clearly have forgotten DCU. To refresh your memory, DCU was dog shit terrible. Fucking terrible. It was an awful run. You basically had the DC New 52, and that came out and did some things for a while. And then DC was kind of losing people, and so they put out DCU. And DCU was fucking awful. Sorry, I know some creators who listen to the show work on that period of comics, but it was crap awful. From Convergence to all the dumb shit that came out of that. We had the Batgirl of Burnside doing selfies. I mean, it was an awful run. And people, lots of people, were online talking about how this was the most miserable shit time of all of comics, and the DC was going to stop publishing comics because everything was failing. The sales tanked. It did terrible. Now, by the way, if you're listening to this going, well, I like DCU. Again, more power to you. You're still getting the same beer as everybody else when you get beer. Okay? Don't think less of you. But the general consensus for DCU was it was a dog shit terrible. That was the consensus. That was what people thought. Awful. And yet Rebirth came out, and in the course of 60 days, really like 30, 45 days, not everybody, but a vast majority of people all declared a renaissance at DC. Everything had gotten better. The problems had been solved. And that was the point. Now, was there a leadership change between, DCU and Rebirth? Not really. Jeff Johns flexed a little harder for Rebirth than he was. So there, the tilt of power seemed to go a little away from Dan Didio and a little bit more toward, Jeff Johns. And then DC did this thing that, by the way, this is not me. This is facts. This is what you said, some of you anyway. Hey, they hired an amazing writer away from Marvel. Clearly, Marvel is screwed. They hired one of Marvel's best writers, Tom King. Huh? You said it. You guys said it. No backsies. This is what you said. Anyway, my point in all this was it was really easy for DC to recover. They just changed direction. Usually changing direction means you have to have a leadership change. Yes. Usually that's how you get that done. In Rebirth's case, though, you really didn't have a leadership change. You just had a slight higher influence from John's, a slight lesser influence from Didio, and things worked out. That's what happened. So, it doesn't necessarily need a leadership change. Definitely easier if they have one, but that's not a requirement. So that's basically what went on. That's what happened. So can it happen again? Sure, it can happen again, but it would require the people in the company to want to make a change and to commit to it and have the brass, the balls, whatever you happen to be, to make that change. And no, I don't think the current management's in the mood to do that. So yes, with the current people involved, I think the odds are very low. Not zero, but low. Very, very low. But again, you can have a change of management. You can have a turnover. And you could be there, like, things can happen quickly. That's the entire point of a lot of things in comics. Things can get better and get worse very, very fast. Anyway, I go back over this because it was amazing to me, like so many people. It says changes, like this comment, changes in creative teams can gradually win over readers, is certainly not always instantaneous. Not always, but often. While some liked it, many people hated Morrison's X-Men run at the start. That's not what the sales say, though. I mean, I hear you, but that is definitely not what the sales say. The sales jump pretty hard, pretty fast. Again, I mean, in hindsight, I think a lot of people have said, but people were all in on Morrison's X-Men. It had huge buzz. I was running a store at the time. Trust me, all the shops were selling out of that shit. They were happy. It says, it took long-term exposure for Bendis fans to realize he had some rather annoying writing tricks. Now, that's true. But Bendis coming onto a title for a while at Marvel was also instant sales. You would have the title jump, in some cases with Bendis, again, sales videos are up there, the numbers doubled when Bendis came on. Again, this isn't an opinion, this is a numerical fact. This is what happened. So anyway, but a lot of the people they were very much in disagreement. And it does strike me that part of this is kind of the nature of where we are in comics right now, where, and I mean no offense to any of you by saying this, I think there's a decent amount of people who need it to suck. They need it to fail. And so the idea that it could get better is like just foreign to them. It just doesn't make any sense. Get better. Like that, what? Don't even know how to digest that. But the reality is, and honestly, that should piss you off more. I want you to think about this differently than maybe the way you've thought about it in the past. It should make you more mad that with a change of direction, with leadership that is really focused on making good books, putting stuff out, things could get better overnight or very close to overnight. Within a month, within 2 months, things can double, as has been proven in the past a lot. And remember, Rebirth was what, like 7 years ago? Wasn't that long ago. So it can definitely improve. Definitely. No doubt about it. That should make you madder. Because if we're stuck in the middle of a bad run and a lot of bad kind of managerial decisions, it means that literally things could get better within 2 months, dramatically better in 2 months, but nobody's pulling that trigger. So for a lot of you, a lot of people came in and say, Perch is too optimistic. Perch is too glass half full. Perch is wrong. DC is dead forever. You guys are almost too positive. I know, in a weird way. You guys are getting it wrong. It makes me madder, should make you madder too, that the opportunity is right there for really transformative, awesome change. And nope, nobody is bothering to make that effort. I'll read you one more comment. This one cracks me up because there's a punchline at the end. Are you ready? Here it goes. It says, I love Perch's analysis, humor, and insight, but I think he missed the mark on this one. Lots of what ifs, and if this happens, and if that happens, then DC will recover. Well, yeah, that was the point of the video. But I think there are too many variables working against comics. SJWs, expensive comics, not a lot of money to pay good writers and artists, gay and bi transformations, continuity being destroyed. Hardcore fans like myself will just have to admit mainstream is dead and have to enjoy back issues. Again, not necessarily. Yeah, it is a what if. What if maybe these things, somebody can come in with a change, somebody figures out we want to make some easy money, appeal to the collectors, they can do it. And I mean, history suggests the odds are far more likely that it will happen than it won't. Why do I say this? because it's happened several times. We've had the ups and downs, just playing the odds. Unless you believe that current cultural political ideology is here to stay, and if it was, that would be the first time in recorded history that it did. So, by the way, this is bad news for all the SJWs or douchebag hate channels. That this will pass. How do I know this? Because 100% of the time it has in the past. This has always passed. Not without blood, not without a bunch of bullshit, not without people getting annoyed, for sure. No doubt about it. Not saying it's not painful, just saying that history tells us these kind of ideological movements do not last forever. They absolutely don't. But anyway, back to this comment, because we're getting to the punchline. You ready? I remember Perch doing a video about you can only push a loyal person to the point where they no longer give a fuck. Are you ready? This one's awesome. Well, my point has been reached with John Kent and Tim Drake. Sorry, only thing I now read from DC is Batman. So you read half of their line. You read like 40 books a month, right? No, I'm kidding, and thank you for the comment always, but I have to laugh at that last line. The only thing I now read from DC is Batman. Cool. So you're basically supporting the company because 60% of what they publish is Batman. I know that's not what you meant, but it did. I did get a good chuckle out of that. It was funny. But look, and you're right. You can only push a person so far, but by the same token, all they have to do, like we saw, Rebirth was interesting because it completely laid out a marketing campaign for the collectors. That's what it was. And I remember, by the way, saying at the time with Rebirth, I'm like, I hope nobody believes that DC actually believes this shit. You know, when Johns and Didio were doing videos, like, we realized that we turned our backs on the hardcore fans and we needed to reach out to them again. That was marketing. Now, who knows what's in Didio and Johns' heart? Maybe they both actually believe that, but it was still marketing. And the proof that it was still marketing is here we are in 2022, what, six years or so later, and how's your Rebirth doing? Doing great. Now, granted, you know, Didio's been fired and Johns is gone, so but Didio was unwinding this stuff while he was there. Johns was busy either making an awesome Snyder movie or harassing Cyborg, depending on who you believe in. But that's the point in all this is it can flip. It does take new leadership, as a lot of people point out. It takes leadership. But I find it very fascinating that people are very, we're willing to forget recent history because we've really got to believe they're dead. They're dead. Here's a comment, infamy or death. The recover if someone at Warner Bros. Comes in and fires everyone. All the editors need to go and 80% of the writers and artists like Rosmo. I like how Rosmo pointed out, like, you draw weird chins. You draw weird chins. You're gone. But yes, I do think there's a management change that we'll need. What's funny is, to me, the management change is less about the quality and more about, can we hire some people who actually seem to give a shit about the direction of the company and want to roll up sleeves and at least appear like they're working hard to try and do something. The vibe, and again, my apologies for the people from DC who are listening to this, the problem is the vibe that DC gives off at the management level is that people are bored, work is a nuisance. I did this video the other day. It's like, Chris Conroy has a reasonable reputation in person as being somebody who's super jazzed and into the comics and willing to push. He does. I hear that from a lot of different people. If you go onto Twitter, he's talking about what a burden it is to open email and that he wants 5 pizzas. It's a very weird dynamic. But the problem is DC has an apathy problem. The company feels like the leadership is apathetic. So yeah, you're probably going to have to change leadership. But I still stand by, and I 100% truly believe it. Things can change very, very fast. We've seen it with Rebirth. We've seen it with initiatives from Marvel in the past, both pro and con. We saw it with the X-Men multiple times with different creators. We've seen it many, many times. Odds are that we will see it again. The odds are that at some point you will see it again. But again, that pisses me off, that fact. You guys please need to digest this. That makes me mad. Doesn't make me feel like Pollyanna happy, oh my God, just wait around. Everything will be good again. A lot of dumbasses who like to portray what I say as super, super happy, overly positive. These people are both not listening and or too dumb to actually, get the point. And the point is, it's worse. It's worse knowing that success is actually quite achievable and quite quickly grabbed if you just bear down, buckle down, do the right things. And the fact that people don't is absurd. And by the way, I'll throw one more thing out there you guys might all disagree with. Comic fans, everybody says comic fans are notoriously hard to please. The toxic fan has got to have it their way. My experience is somewhat the opposite. Most comic fans will put up with a tremendous amount of bullshit and still support and promote their comics. Way more than other industries, way more than other hobbies. Comic fans will endure terrible runs. They will defend very strange, dumb choices. I'll put it really into perspective, which will definitely piss some people off. There are people who have crowdfunding campaigns out there that are really fucking late. And yet, comic fans are hanging in there. No, it's fine. I know it's late, it's years late, but I still support this creator. Comic fans are pretty goddamn, patient and tolerant, by and large. Yes, they will complain about nonsensical crap like continuity, no prize type errors, Silver Surfer appearing here and here at the same time doesn't make any sense. They'll definitely do that, no doubt about it. But this is the stuff that makes me mad. You guys all think I'm being optimistic, Perch here. It actually makes me more angry because A, you can fix things really quickly if you really wanted to, and B, the fan base that often gets shit on and called toxic fans and all the rest is a fan base that more than other industries is like the abused spouse who keeps coming back for more. And there should be at least some acknowledgement that rather than immediately jump to the idea that the fans are toxic, the fans are bad, the fans didn't like this comic, so therefore it's hate trolls on Twitter, blah, 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 blah. Instead, there should be at least an acknowledgement of these fucking fans put up with Chuck Austin's run, kept coming back for more. These fans put up with having the price of their comics double over 15 years and keep coming back for more. Come on. On some level, you do have to acknowledge that these comic fans, even though they bitch, show up to the room, cash in hand, ready to support you. Over and over again. And while it may hurt the feels to have them bitch, they show up. They show up way up. Comic fans, I know it's a weird point, are often way more tolerant than they get credit for. No, it doesn't mean that, that the comic fans are going on some giant ranty bunch of bullshit over and over and over every single day of the year. Doesn't mean that those people are all just secretly lovable people. We should treat them with kindness and respect. If you're going to act like a dumb asshole, then you're getting treated like a dumb asshole. Not saying that, but by and large, comic fans are pretty patient with a lot of this bullshit. And maybe if every now and then you acknowledge that, maybe there'd be a little less bullshit too. Just throwing that in there. Anyway, like I said, I know, but it could get easy really quick. Hope it does. It will, and odds are it will someday. Probably not tomorrow. Thanks for listening.